Hello and welcome. I'm Leigh-Ann Gerrans and you're watching W News Extra, broadcasting live from the Arabiya studios. These are our top stories. Venezuela's ousted president, Nicolás Maduro, pleads not guilty as he appears in a New York court charged with drug and weapon offences. Denmark tells Trump to back off as he insists Greenland is key to US security and resources. And Trump warns Iran of a very hard US response if more protesters are killed. President Trump has warned Venezuela's incoming leader, Delcy Rodriguez, she will pay a very big price if she defies US demands, as she is sworn in today. It comes after ousted President Nicolás Maduro appears in court in New York on drug and weapon charges. While Washington insists it is not at war with Venezuela, Trump says the US will now oversee the country and its oil infrastructure. Take a listen.
The country is a mess. It's been horribly run. The oil is just flowing at a very low level, much lower than, even if it was badly run, it should have more income, more oil than what they do. So we're going to have the big oil companies go in, and they're going to fix the infrastructure, and they're going to invest money. We're not going to invest anything. We're going to just take care of the country. We're going to cherish the country. We're going to take care, more importantly, of the people, including Venezuelans that are living in our country that were forced to leave their country. And they're going to be taken very good care of.
To discuss this and all of today's stories, I'm joined by Arabiya senior presenter Rawia Alami, who joins me in the studio, and editor-in-chief of Arabian Business, Damian Reilly, who joins us all the way from London. Damian and Rawia, Happy New Year to both of you. Great to have you on the show. Rawia, I wanted to start with you because, wow, what a way to start the year. Journalists all over the world have been extremely busy, but let's focus on Donald Trump, who says the US will now run Venezuela via Delcy Rodriguez. How will all of this work?
You're right. What a start for this new year. I mean, I think it's quite telling how this year is going to be if this is just the first week or the first few days of it. Well, yes, that's what President Trump said. He said, we will run Venezuela through Rodriguez. I believe, or I think there's a lot of contradiction just within that statement, because basically Rodriguez is considered one of the top officials of the regime that President Trump has just overthrown. She is personally sanctioned by the US and by the EU, yet, especially now after she signaled that she will cooperate with the United States and she will do Trump's bidding, I think the situation has changed. Now, from a legal standpoint, the U.S. has no legal ground or no legal authority to run or you know, to rule in Venezuela in any shape or form. But through Rodriguez, after she's going to be sworn to be the interim president, and she swears allegiance, at least theoretically, to Trump, then that is quite doable. How is it doable? It's simply with coercion or threats. I think she responded well to Trump's threats that she will be next if she does not abide by what Trump says and what the US wants. And basically, that is what she decided to do. And this is how Trump is going to run it through her. But I think that he considers her a president only for a short while until, you know, the House is arranged internally, the military is on board with the opposition leader who is endorsed, Ms. Machado, who is endorsed by Trump, and then maybe the situation is going to change.
Damian, let's focus on that a little bit because it's really interesting because lots of people have been saying since we saw this US capture of Maduro over the weekend on Saturday morning, why hasn't opposition come in? Why hasn't Machado come in? She obviously won the Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump has endorsed her. And all of a sudden, we're seeing Delcy Rodriguez be put in, someone who is a hangover from the Maduro government.
Well, maybe it's a way to maintain some sort of stability. I mean, I agree totally with what your other speaker was saying, that she seems clearly just to be a proxy for Donald Trump. And I think probably people in the region are waiting to see what the American president will decide the course of action should be. It is very, very recent. It only happened the day before yesterday. So a vacuum has been created, but it's probably a little bit late. I mean, a bit too early for new forces to fill that vacuum.
And Damian, let's talk a little bit about what happened today in the courtroom, because it was really interesting. We did see the theatrics around Nicolás Maduro and his wife being transported to a New York court earlier today. And it was really interesting because to me, he appeared defiant in that courtroom, Nicolás Maduro. He pleaded not guilty. He said, I'm a decent man. And he said, I am still the president of Venezuela. But can you just remind us of the charges that Maduro actually faces right now in the US?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything you could hope for from a sort of Tony Montana South American dictator. There's working with the cartels to export cocaine. There's possession of military-grade weaponry. There's accepting of bribes, and then there's a little bit of organizing of a bit of torture, murder, and beating up of enemies. So it's the full 9 yards. It's everything you could hope for. But in terms of his defiance, I mean, what else would you expect him to be? This is all happening very fast. He's hardly going to say it's a fair cop, send me down. He will have the best legal representation money can buy. And so for the time being, at least, although his chances are extremely slim to vanishing, of ever walking out, it's in his interest to say, this is a breach of international law. I am still the leader of Venezuela. Drop the charges, Your Honor.
Rawia, absolutely fascinating what is happening at the moment. And as we say, it is moving extremely quickly. And when it comes to the future of Venezuela, these are the big questions, because Donald Trump can go in there, he can remove Nicolás Maduro. We've seen that happen. And the special forces, no matter what anyone said, did an incredible job, the US military, in what they actually achieved. And it will sure be the topic of much discussion and many TV shows in the future. But the day after is the big question at the moment.
It's always the big question. But before I answer your question, I would just like to go back to the theatrics that we were talking about in today's court and his trial. He tried to spin it or put a political spin on it. He said that I'm a political prisoner, even though all the charges are criminal brought against him in the American court are criminal charges. So there is like these two parallel ways that, you know, to look at what's happening and at this court case that started today. Going back to your question, the day after is always the hardest question. It was so, or it is still so in Gaza, it was so in Iraq, it was so in Afghanistan, and I think we should, you know, learn some lessons from history. Look at what happened in Iraq after the United States removed a dictator. The same with different circumstances in Afghanistan, in Libya. What came after, the day after, was just chaos. Now, in the case of Venezuela, we're talking about a country that has the biggest oil reserve on the face of this earth. So it is extremely important for the United States. Chaos might not be something or a fate that they would tolerate even for a short while. I think they're going to keep a very close control on what's happening in Venezuela, on who will be the next president after the interim president. And even though, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done in regards of that oil. As far as I know, that now the Venezuelan or Venezuela produces only 1 million barrels of oil per day, which is way below capacity. But in order to reach even anywhere close to its full potential and its full capacity, it needs years of, rebuilding the infrastructure. There's so much to be fixed. It's expensive. It needs time. Because of sanctions, everything is run down in the country. So I think leveraging on this great Hollywood-like operation is going to take quite a bit of time.
And just a quick thought from you, Damian, just about the oil, because as Rawia said, some of the biggest untapped oil reserves in the world are in Venezuela. And do you think that is pretty much the whole reason Donald Trump was there?
I think there's two reasons. I think that's the primary reason, and it's very obvious that America has an enormous national debt and a huge amount of oil, more oil, very useful, paying that off. But then, of course, there's all the nefarious stuff that goes on in Venezuela, which is right on America's doorstep. Terrorist organizations, adversaries of the United States, all doing business there unchecked. And to hear Donald Trump or Marco Rubio, who may well be the next president of Venezuela, tell it, that is the reason that they've gone in. And I think it's a good reason.
Absolutely fascinating. I don't know, the story just keeps on giving, doesn't it?
It's going to be a very...
we're going to be talking about it in the weeks and months to come.
It's a very interesting year to come.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Damian and Rawia, thank you so much. Stay right there as we move on to another story now. And Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, has warned Trump to stop the threats over Greenland, saying the US cannot annex the island. She emphasised Greenland is part of Denmark, a NATO member, and covered by existing defence agreements. Trump doubled down, citing the island's strategic location and mineral wealth for US security. Damian, so people may have thought this idea was absolutely radical before, but as we've just been saying, what we've seen in Venezuela is this now actually a possibility that Greenland could be part of the US before we know it.
Yeah, well, maybe it's the defining characteristic of our times is the speed at which the open window shifts sort of day to day. And, a year ago, it would have seemed insane, or just 18 months ago, it would have seemed far-fetched beyond belief that we'd now be sitting here talking about America annexing Greenland. But here we are. What I think is more interesting in a way, although it's extremely interesting in itself, is that it makes it very hard for America to get on its high horse about, for example, Putin's ambitions in Ukraine or China's ambitions regarding Taiwan, if Trump is going to say, well, America takes Greenland. And I wonder if conversations have been had at the very, very highest levels in which they sort of agree this, sign it off and say, we will look the other way while you take these pieces of land that are extremely advantageous for you and they're far away from us. I certainly think that would be a plausible explanation for what is going on.
And it's really interesting because what you said there, Damian, I've heard lots of people speaking about it, and the big argument is Donald Trump giving other countries like China carte blanche to take Taiwan and Russia carte blanche to take Ukraine, or is this a warning shot from Donald Trump basically saying that we're going to protect our own, so just be careful what's to come. I have the ability to carry out these operations with an amazing force behind me.
Well, certainly he does have that amazing force, but in the cases of both Greenland, well, Greenland hasn't happened yet, but in the case of Venezuela, it's extremely close. It's right on America's doorstep. Taiwan is not that, is the other side of the world and is extremely close to China. So it would be far harder to defend Taiwan than it would be to seize Greenland or remove overnight the leader of Venezuela from his bed with his wife.
Rawia, Greenland as a place, you know, we just heard it's very strategically important, but it's also full of mineral wealth, Greenland.
Yes.
What is Donald Trump actually after here? Because, you know, we remember when he first, you know, took up office a year ago, Greenland was so high on the agenda, then it kind of disappeared. We even saw J.D. Vance go there, and I think Donald Trump's son, Eric, but now it's back. What does he want?
Now it's back with more context, I think, after Venezuela, the whole issue of Greenland. I think he's after two things, security and the rare earth minerals as well. I don't think he is talking about annexation in the 19th century context or understanding. I think what he means is that if we do not go in, and that's why he says we need Greenland, someone else will, which is China. He means China. I think China is the main target behind this because the Chinese government has been trying to invest heavily in Greenland, in things like airports. They have been courting Greenlandish leaders as well. Therefore, it is vital for the United States at this stage to be thinking about getting Greenland for the rare earths and for security. Let's not forget that Greenland is truly a military keystone. It is sitting in between North America and Europe, so any Russian submarines heading towards the US or the Atlantic are going to pass near Greenland. Any missiles that are fired from Russia are going to fly over Greenland or near it. Radars and satellites that are based there can see threats in the entire area. We shouldn't forget also that the US operates already a base there called Pitufik Space Base in northern Greenland, so they do have kind of boots on the ground. But in terms of minerals, it's true that, of course, they do have rare earth minerals, uranium, zinc, and potential lithium deposits as well. And these, they matter a lot for the United States because, as we know, China dominates the rare earth processing, and the US is looking for a China or non-Chinese supply chains for these minerals. And Greenland could provide it, even though it's the same case as Venezuelan oil. It's going to take time and a lot of money to extract, to mine them, basically.
Yeah, it's infrastructure. Donald Trump might not even be in power by the time all that money comes. But Damian, another thing here that we have to think about is Greenland is currently under Danish rule, so it's Denmark, and it's also part of NATO. So if Donald Trump theoretically does put boots on the ground and go into Greenland, what could that actually mean for NATO and also for the powers in Europe? Because we hear Donald Trump so much talk about the Europeans. The Europeans just talk about talks and they don't really get anything done. And, you know, Donald Trump's transactional. He wants to make deals. He wants to make them quick.
Yeah, I totally agree. He wants to do deals. I think at his heart, he is a real estate Queen's broker. And he sees a big, valuable plot of land that's not very well occupied. And he thinks, well, a deal can be done. In terms of what it would do to NATO, I think NATO would have a nervous breakdown instantly and cease to exist. Obviously, it has to come to Greenland's defense because Greenland and Denmark is a signatory to NATO. However, it's not going to take on the United States of America. It would cause an amazing amount of more talk, followed by a nervous breakdown, I think. It would be the end of NATO.
I think NATO members will have cognitive dissonance at some point, because if they are attacked according to Article 5, they should defend NATO members. So if they are attacked by a NATO member, they need to attack each other. So, yeah.
I do agree. I think it will be nervous breakdown. And I think at the moment, European countries are pretty shaken about Greenland coming back on the agenda. But thank you for your thoughts on that. Let's move on to another story now. And President Trump has warned Iran it will be hit very hard by the US if more protesters are killed amid demonstrations over the cost of living. At least 20 people have died since the protests begun in Tehran, the largest unrest since the 2022 movement. Trump said Washington is watching very closely and may respond if violence does continue. Take a listen to what he said.
Even though there's been protesters killed in Iran, you said we were locked and loaded, ready to go. What is the line there for when the U.S. is going to get involved in those protests?
We'll take a look. We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Rawia, so we just heard from Donald Trump there on board Air Force One and speaking to the reporter. What did you make of his comments? And do you think Iran is now looking and thinking, oh, we've really got to take these threats and be careful how we deal with the protests that have entered the 9th day in the country?
It's hard to say, to be honest. I mean, Trump's threats, they follow a usual pattern that we are used to of his administration's maximum pressure, usually policy towards Iran. Yet, traditionally and historically, the Iranian regime has viewed the United States threats as just bluffing. I mean, just in 2019, after incidents like the downing of a U.S. drone at that time, nothing happened. You know, there were American threats, yet President Trump called off the strikes, so there were no strikes. But consider the last 6 months after, you know, the United States and Israel struck Iran in last summer, and the entire war and the repercussions of it, the damage to the infrastructure in Iran, to the missile manufacturing, to the also nuclear bases and infrastructure. I think maybe the Iranian regime will be thinking differently this time. Having said that, I do not believe that there is real motivation to strike Iran because of internal protests and the way the regime is dealing with it. I don't think that really the United States or Trump himself cares so much about the Iranian people in that sense. I think that would be a pretext for strikes for other reasons. I believe that Israel got the green light to strike Iran. I believe this is going to happen soon, probably sooner than what we think, but not because of the protests. It's because of its nuclear program. It's because Israel has managed to sell to President Trump that Iran is rebuilding its nuclear and ballistic missile capabilities.
Damian, I don't know what your thoughts are when it comes to Iran, because I find it really interesting. I feel like the rhetoric on Iran has been hyped up in the last couple of weeks. Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel won't let Iran restore ballistic missile program. He said that today. We honestly heard from Donald Trump a little bit earlier. We've seen these protests into the 9th day. They reckon about 20 people have actually died in these protests, which are all about the economy. What's your thoughts on what's actually happening inside of Iran?
Well, I think again and again we're seeing that people discount what Donald Trump says at their peril. He's not 100% consistent, but as Nicolás Maduro found out at the weekend, sometimes he does back up what he says with actions and with decisive actions. In terms of what is happening in Iran, it seems obvious to me that Iran is being messed with from a distance. Its infrastructure keeps failing, its water, its sanitation, its currency. There are more and more situations being created that are causing immense discontent amongst the populace. And that seems concerted and deliberate and has led to these protests, quite understandably. It seems equally obvious to me that America and Israel would far rather not have to intervene. American interventions in the Middle East are typically disastrous and highly expensive. So I think they would far prefer and are trying to create the conditions in which the Iranian people do it themselves. And it looks like that is becoming potentially successful, which is an extremely interesting and heightened situation for the whole region.
And there have been rumours, Damian, that Ayatollah Khamenei could actually tried to flee Iran as a result of this unrest that has been bubbling up in the country. What are your thoughts on that, and where likely could he actually go?
Well, I'm sure obviously it's a last resort to flee, and he would only do that if the enemy was at the gate and it looked like he was going to end up in a very bad place indeed. I don't think it's a long list of places he could go to be perfectly honest. I think it would have to be Russia. And he may have made plans for that to happen. He may scarper if things get heavy, really heavy. But I think we've got a little way to go. But in these things can move incredibly fast. It can happen overnight. You never know. It's impossible to tell. When the herd moves, the herd moves.
Mm-hmm. Bashar al-Assad and Ayatollah Khamenei possibly in Moscow. I mean,
yes, having dinner together maybe. But I mean, after what happened in Syria, after what happened in Venezuela, nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible.
And I feel like the more and more we do the news, the more and more we realize how everything is on the table at the moment.
We're definitely watching history being made.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay right there as we move on to another story now. And we're going to go all the way to Paris, where 10 people have been found guilty of cyberbullying the First Lady of France, Brigitte Macron. The defendants were accused of spreading false allegations regarding her gender and sexuality and making malicious remarks about the 24-year age gap with the French president. The majority were given suspended prison sentences, but one was jailed immediately for failing to attend court. Damian, let's start with you, because tell us more about this case and those actually found guilty in the case today.
Well, the case falls into into the category of popular internet conspiracies. There are plenty of rumours about the Macrons, about Emmanuel and about Brigitte. They supposedly met when Emmanuel was a 15-year-old schoolboy. I think she was supposed to be in her late 20s, early 30s. And she found him devastatingly attractive, which I think anyone who's come into contact with 15-year-old boys finds weird. 15-year-old boys are not attractive to anybody. So it was odd. I think she got married to him when she was in her mid-50s and he was in his late 20s. Again, odd. There have been long-standing allegations that she is in fact a man, and you don't have to trawl too hard on the internet to find people making these allegations. So I think the Macrons have sued the most high-profile people, well, not quite the most high-profile people making these allegations, and have been successful. And as you just said, some of the people making them have received punishments, one of which includes imprisonment. They seem like quite a wacky bunch. I think one is some sort of guru, and one is a self-appointed freelance journalist. But as is always the case in these things, that it's a strange assortment of people.
What I loved the most is one of them was actually a fortune teller. So she believed, Damian and Rawia, that she could see the future and she knew exactly what was going on, but she's now lost in court over it. So I'm not quite sure anyone would go to her to know the future. But anyway,
not anymore.
Wacky bunch, as Damian says. And clearly the Macrons have won this battle, but this is not the only battle on their hands, is it, Rawia? Because as Damian did say, they've got so much conspiracy theory out there. One of the main people to drive that is Candace Owens. And we did see really what happened to Brigitte Macron coming to the fore when she started her podcast.
And I think this is the more serious case. It's categorically different and definitely way more complex, because it's a transatlantic defamation lawsuit by the Macrons against an American commentator, a public figure that is quite well known. Yeah. So the consequences or the results of this case are going to be quite significant. Now, this case, because it is the Macrons have brought this case in America, using the American legal system. So it relies on the American First Amendment, which has an incredibly robust protection for speech. And usually the US courts have set very high bar for proving actual malice. So the Macrons have quite a bit of a job, or at least their lawyers have quite a bit of a job to prove that actually there was malice and that Candace Owens did knowingly spread those rumors to damage Brigitte Macron's reputation. Yet, if the Macrons win it or even settle the case, it would be a really powerful symbol and a victory, potentially basically deterring other international journalists or whoever it is, from damaging the reputation of public figures like Brigitte Macron.
But Damian, you were speaking about this a little bit earlier before we came on air, and we said, wouldn't it just be easy if Brigitte Macron and Emmanuel Macron just gave evidence that his wife was indeed born a woman, she wasn't born a man, and this could all go away? We've seen a real defiance from the Macrons when it comes to this. And the Candace Owens case, I think that's going to be an important place where they can put their evidence forward.
Yes, I mean, it seems crazy not to just make it go away by releasing a few childhood photos. So either they are so dignified that they're above this grubbiness and don't want to get sucked into it, or there's another reason not to do it. Certainly if it was me or somebody I cared deeply about and people were making these insane, what I thought were insane allegations that I could easily disprove, it would be extremely easy to post on social media, for example, a few photos of me as a youngster playing or something that just showed very clearly that I was and have always been what I claimed to be. It's never been easier than this day and age to disprove falsehoods through things like social media. So it is odd, but perhaps they are just incredibly dignified people who don't want to get sucked down into the fray. However, this court case would seem to demonstrate that they are prepared to get into the battle of it. So it'll be fascinating to see what actually happens with Candace Owens when push comes to shove, whether at the last minute things will get settled out of court or what happens. It's a fascinating case, and one where sometimes you think there's no smoke without fire.
Yeah, I do think Candace Owens did that whole documentary on this, and her evidence was absolutely fascinating. But like Damian says, we'll have to see how that goes down in court and what the Macrons put on. But that's such an interesting chat. Let's see what the landscape will be like when they come across Candace Owens, because she's one defiant, strong journalist. Anyway, now it's that time of the show where Rawia and Damian have chosen two of their quirkiest stories of the day. And Rawia, your story is actually something that I was also quite fascinated about. Yours is about this guy called the Ibiza final boss and how much he's made becoming a viral sensation. But I really want to see a picture of him because we'll talk
It's all in the picture.
It's all in the picture.
Yep.
Yeah, there he is.
A very strange haircut, but that's what made him a millionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a former construction worker from Newcastle. And apparently, after his picture went viral, and his video went viral while he was dancing in Ibiza with this haircut, he made in just 6 weeks over 800,000 pounds. Can you imagine?
Wow.
And then he's added another 200,000 since to his pocket. And now, I mean, he's been interviewed on multiple news channels, including Channel 4, documentary about him. And also recently he filed documents with the UK Intellectual Property Office to trademark the slogan, "Be Your Own," and that's under presentation of music concerts. So now that he's organizing concerts, he's going to open his own club, he can organize festivals, all because of his haircut.
I must admit something. When I look at those pictures, one, I've never seen a picture with him without sunglasses on. And he's not the best-looking man, but Damian, credit to him for making all this money?
Credit to his hair.
100%. I mean, it's a sensational haircut. Nobody can deny that. And the older I get, the more I just applaud people that can summon £1 million out of thin air. And I wonder what the hell I'm doing with my life, working all as God sends. If it would just take getting a haircut like that, I would do it in a heartbeat. So fair play to him. Well done.
But then we talk...
He's the final boss.
And like you say, he's the final boss. He's got this mad haircut. And apparently, according to the Daily Mail, he is losing his hair a little bit at the back, but we won't get into that. But he does talk, you know, about the future and trademarking his name, but longevity, because I think time and time again, Damian and Rawia, we've seen reality TV stars go into things like Love Island and Big Brother, but it's just a small window of opportunity, isn't it?
I think they shine like a star. They such things that go viral because of a video or a picture. I think it's just like I don't know how to explain it. It's just a bright light for a few seconds and then it goes away. I mean, what does he do after that?
He's a construction worker, apparently, so maybe if all else fails, he can go back into construction.
He will go back into construction, but he's not going to be making £1 million in 6 weeks because of construction.
No, but he can go back into construction, crucially, without a mortgage. He's done. I mean, he can just be a construction worker for the sheer pleasure of being a construction worker, thanks to his haircut.
But I mean, £1 million, I mean, it's not, honestly, I mean, it's not that much.
I wouldn't mind making it in 6 weeks.
I wouldn't mind making it. I mean, I would buy maybe a couple of properties, but after that, okay, I still need to work, you know. He needs to do something with it.
Well, we better send him some motherly advice, I think, Rawia. But moving on, and Damian, we'll talk about yours, because a record £1 billion worth of Christmas gifts are being taken back to the shops. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, I read this story and I thought how disgusting and how ungrateful people are returning their presents back to the shops, and this is awful and this is a sign of the horror of modernity. And then I realised that I am absolutely as guilty as anyone. My mother gave me a jumper from Marks and Spencer's that as soon as I opened it, I thought, well, I'm taking that back. And then she rang me, my own mother, from John Lewis, trying to return the state-of-the-art Bose soundbar that I bought her for her television. And she got into an argument with the lady at the counter about how to return it. And whether she could get the money in vouchers or whether it would have to go back to me and then I'd give it to her. And she was worried that the speaker that I bought, the walls are too thin in her flat and it would offend her neighbours. So, yeah, she gave it back.
That's really thoughtful, though, of her.
But it's also thoughtful of you. I get the sound system's nice. Maybe the Ibiza final boss would have been blasting through the walls of the other people's. But you know something? I'm pretty much with Damian on this, because I was given a Christmas present by my boyfriend, which I didn't like, and I told him to go and change it or take it back and get something else. I think that you should, this might be controversial, but I think you should tell people what you want. You shouldn't just say, oh, go to the shop and surprise me, because this is what happens. You get a jumper you don't like.
No, I disagree. I think it's the one time of year, your Christmas and your birthday, where you can demonstrate to somebody that you know them, that you put a lot of thought into them, and that you try to choose something that will make them happy. Even if you fail, you kind of fail gloriously. And I think it's so sad when people say, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for your birthday? And then you tell them and then you get it. It's like you may as well order it yourself. I think it's much nicer to be given a gift that shows some sort of thought about you, particularly when it's from the people that you love and who supposedly love you.
I kind of agree with this, because telling people what you want sort of takes away from the surprise as well. I told my children what I wanted for my birthday. They didn't get that. They got me a voucher to get that, yet they got me the most thoughtful gift, which is like an electronic picture frame, and they uploaded all the pictures of themselves and me since they were kids up until they, this age now that they're at. And I thought that was really beautiful. Actually, I loved it way more than if they had gotten me what I asked them for.
I think that's very true, but I must admit something. I'm very selfish. I don't like surprises, and I like what I like. So if it's not on the Christmas list, don't bother.
The ideal is that you get the thoughtful present, but you also get the gift receipt. and then you get the best of both worlds.
Oh, perfect idea.
Yeah.
But thanks so much to our guest today, Al Arabiya senior presenter Rawia Alami, who was in the studio right here in Dubai with me, and editor-in-chief of Arabian Business, Damian Reilly, who joined us all the way from a snowy London. And that's all from us on W News Extra. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Of course, follow us on X. GMT will be coming up next. Goodbye and thank you.